welcome everyone to our last installment of our senior outgoing Q&As for our 2020 group of seniors. Today, I have Lake City's Nash Nelson. He placed fourth at the section this year, as well as last year. Numerous top three places in some local tournaments this year. Happened to have just a bear of a section bracket. And we're going to learn a little bit about his kind of journey through the sport of wrestling and where he's going off to next, because the kid's real busy. I had to move around some scheduling things to get a hold of him, so I'm glad we got this one in. Nash, how's it going today?
Pretty good. How about you?
It's going. We were just talking off air that you're working right now, plus you're doing the distance learning stuff through your school. How's that going?
Going good. Yep. Really nice. My boss kind of lets me have break time and do my Zoom classes, and then I can get back to work, and just really works out well.
I'm trying to balance everything right now, and we're all it's new for everybody. I mean, I'm guessing you miss your friends and the social aspects of school a little bit. Man, I know I'm missing my students and like my coworkers and everything. I can't imagine what you seniors are going through right now, which is partially why we do this. Do you know what Lake City's plan is for the end of the year? Are you guys doing any sort of drive-by graduation or anything?
Yeah, they haven't totally said for sure, but we're gonna do like something at the football field for the graduation ceremony, and so.
Good. So you guys get a little bit of shine.
Yeah.
It's probably. Do you have older siblings at all?
I have two. I'm a triplet. I have two sisters that are the same age. So. You didn't know that?
Did I you know, this is probably the third or fourth interview where somebody said something that's kind of blown my mind a little bit, and I feel like I should know these things. But it's hard, and it probably looks bad. People are looking at me like, man, this coach doesn't keep in track with his wrestlers. But when we have, you guys travel from far away. So from Lake City to Storyville, you got like an hour drive, more or less. And then it turns into like, we get there and it's an hour and a half. Like we gotta bang the things out we gotta bang out. And yeah, so you're a triplet.
Yeah.
Okay. But like this is your senior year, and I don't, I mean, the nice part is you probably don't know a whole lot better then.
No.
As to what it kind of feels like this part of the year. Has senioritis set in at all?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So again, we're going to start with kind of how you got involved. You said right now you're working, you're doing schoolwork. You said you told me off air, so you're working at a golf course, plus you're helping out at home and helping out at the farm across. So very busy guy with a lot of other hobbies.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the parts that I really like about coaching you is you kind of remind me that like not everybody is a robot like I am. Especially as soon as the clock hits 4 p.m., like I'm in wrestling mode most days after work. Like I know I'm either going to freestyle or I'm going to watch a high school meet or whatever I'm going to do. And I always get a like polite reminder that like, hey, kids do other things. They're off milking cows. They're off doing this. And that's something I enjoy about having you in the room is when you're there, it's all business. It's not to say that you're not committed to the sport of wrestling, but you have so many other cool hobbies and passions that I'm like, oh yeah, other people, like they do other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So talk a little bit. What's your first memory of getting involved in the sport?
Well, I started wrestling in first grade. My cousin Shane, she wrestled. I looked up to him pretty well, and my uncle Kurt, he wrestled for Osage down in Iowa. My dad, he's thinking, girls do basketball, you can't do basketball, but so it just kind of came natural. My parents, they would always ask me, do you want to go to wrestling? They wouldn't really force it on me that much, They just kind of asked me what I wanted to do, and I would chose wrestling. And then, so for like tournaments in elementary, I'd usually go with one of my teammates, Mason West, and we'd always go together. And every tournament we went to, they'd be like, "Oh, here come the twins from Lake City." They always thought we were. So.
You guys do kind of look alike now that I think of it.
Yeah.
What it's more funny that you actually are a triplet and they were calling you twins with somebody else.
He has a twin sister.
He has a twin sister?
Yeah.
what is in the water? I know what's in the water in Lake City. I ain't even going to speak on that. I've been to the football field, but it's
Yeah.
that's crazy. Another decade. Had I known you had triplet sisters, I'd have tried to pull them into the wrestling room. We could have tried to make an Olympic team or something.
Yeah. Right.
Um, so you kind of mentioned this already, as far as like people you looked up to in the sport or around the sport. You talked a little bit about I didn't know he was your cousin, but
Yeah.
your cousin Shane, what's he doing now?
He's working for Hardy Heating and Air. After high school, he went to Augustana for a year, and he didn't really like it there. And now he went to RCTC. He was an All-American for them. Yeah, so now he's working for Hardy. I really looked up to him because seventh, eighth grade, he didn't win very many matches, but then he turned out, 3-time state place winner. Senior year, he won state. That just kind of proves that hard work pays off, and no matter what, you can work hard and you can be good. So
Yeah, he came on as somebody who was just, I'm a little bit older than him, but like watching him all of a sudden, we're like, and this is nothing against Lake City, but at that time, he was probably the best athlete, the best wrestler on the team. And we're like, who is this kid in the state finals? Shane Seward. What's he? Okay, then. Um, and then getting to know Shane a little bit through some of the practices we held at RCTC. What an awesome guy. Like you said, a real testament to the fact that you don't have to be a stud or, the best powerhouse athlete from the time you're 3 years old to the time you're a senior to be top flight. You just kind of have to do the work. So kind of we talked about where you started, now kind of where you started with our program. You kind of came in around the same time as Meinke, maybe a little later.
yeah, a little later.
And you started kind of coming through and usually pretty quiet. Like you'll answer a question if it's given to you, but you're probably not going to be one of them like the rest of them that, make a side comment while I'm showing technique or, say something stupid because I said something stupid and we can't just let it go and let me have one. But I think one of the most fun things about you, other than the fact that you have numerous hobbies, is we never quite know like when you're going to show up to practice.
Yeah.
It'll be a random Sunday. Like, you come in pretty regularly, but then like all the Lake City kids will be gone for whatever reason. They had this or that going on, or the person who usually gives everybody a ride can't go. So then the other 2 or 3 can't. And then it'll pop in Nash. And we're like, oh, Nash, what's up, man? Like, good to see you. It's always fun. You keep me on my toes. So looking forward, obviously a great career. And again, you, as somebody who got to you kind of late in the experience of your sport, ton of growth through those last 2-3 years. Like, and that's no shot at you who you were before, but it looked to me like you were a little more determined, a little more focused on what you were going to do throughout that. Do you play other sports, Nash?
Yeah, I'm in cross country. Went to state a few times on the team for that, and then also in track, and trap shooting. So
Oh, that's right. We do have like a smaller group of our athletes that are trap kids, and it's not that I forget about it, but it's so new.
yeah,
So then I kind of forget. They're like, yeah, we have trap practice. I'm like, what do you mean you have what? And then they have to kind of remind me, yes, Cody, we do things other than wrestling, unlike you. So
yeah.
that's
And then like in the summer, I'm really involved in marching band, so that takes up a lot of summer. That's kind of why I wish I would have been more involved with the whole GWC, but I like to be involved in a lot of different things too. So
well, I'm gonna have to go ahead and what do you play in band? I didn't know this either.
trombone,
That fits. Yep. That's probably about as tall as you are, ain't it?
just about.
So when did you kind of have the moment, and I've used the term breakthrough for a lot of guys, like when you felt you turned a corner, like all of a sudden, like, hey, I'm pretty darn good at this. I can do something here.
Probably maybe like end of 10th grade season, beginning of junior year, I kind of just realized that, I need to start working hard at this, and I can be good.
Yeah, and that seems to be a common time among kids because young men, and as a former young, well, still a young man, but an adolescent man comes to the point where they start to take things seriously instead of it's time to mess around with my buddies. And it seems to be ninth, 10th, maybe early 11th grade-ish time where they're like, okay, it's time to buckle down. And I see that a lot with grades and with sports and with everything. Um, was it like a certain match or a certain time or an event, or was it just kind of a flip that switched? A switch
Uh,
that flipped, excuse me.
wasn't really like a certain like event or really. I think it just kind of came, you know.
And I mean, obviously, super like you guys, the whole team as a whole, Lake City has really come on in the last few years. Um, and it's noted. I don't know how to say this because I don't want to take credit for it, but all of a sudden, like you guys had a little bit of success as a team, and then it was, you had 5, 6 kids at practice instead of 1 or 2. And that doesn't happen on accident. So it's been fun to follow you guys as a team and watch you guys compete as a team and go from maybe not making the Mayo Civic Center all the time to like that's kind of the expectation in Lake City now, it seems.
Yeah.
And you guys got some power coming back too. I know you guys graduate some tough seniors, but you got Max and you got Nate.
Yeah.
I love that kid.
Yeah.
Nate Evans, shout out to you. Max, I love you too. But while we're on the topic there, I see Max is a kid who's kind of had a whole lot of success and continues to climb, whereas Nate's like just coming on right now. He's going to surprise some kids at 106, believe that. Let's talk favorite wrestling memory so far.
Well, most of my favorite wrestling memories came from my junior senior year. Both times we making it out to the Civic Center with the team. That was really fun. Um, After all the tournaments, our varsity wrestles, we'd all go out to the Mexican restaurant in Lake City and just chow down. That was always a fun time. That was our favorite place to go. Another one of my proud favorite memories would be this year. There's a kid that I wrestled ever since first grade, and he's beat me every single time. And this year, the last time I wrestled him, I beat him, and that was really special and cool.
And again, that's another thing that maybe we get in our sport that other people don't, right? You might, I mean, I know growing up in Storeville, like we played 4th grade football against like teams from Rochester, and that was it. And then, you play 7th and 8th grade through the HVL and blah, blah, blah. But in wrestling, you might wrestle the same kid from, Altura, which is light years away from Lake
Yeah.
City. And you might wrestle them every weekend for 6 years, and then you start meeting them in middle school, and that's really cool. And I like that you brought up a memory of wrestling that was outside of the mat.
Yeah.
Like some of the most fun times in this sport don't happen in competition. And again, I think that's something that maybe people outside of our sport don't quite grasp. They're like, what do you mean that's, every wrestler goes, oh, I loved winning this, or I loved winning that, or doing this. And sometimes man, I like going to the Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Which I've never been to. So when everything starts opening back up, I might have to make my way up to Lake City, grab a little Mexican food.
Yeah, you should.
So you've had a lot of mentors and you've had a lot of people. What do you have like a favorite piece of advice or like a life lesson that you've gathered from wrestling?
Let me think. I don't know. Wrestling it's a tough sport. You gotta. It takes a lot of hard work to be good, but it's I don't know. It's all worth it in the end. You know.
I mean, and it's hard to know that in the process, ain't it?
Yeah.
I mean, every wrestler I've ever talked to has had 2 or 3 times where they've been, no matter how good they are, where they've gone, man, I almost didn't go through it. I didn't. That was almost the time I pulled the plug or I cut the cord. It is tough, and I've been talking about that with a few other kids. Like, I'm sure everybody outside of wrestling always hears like, yeah, it's really tough, and we sound, a little bit ridiculous, echoing it, but the individual nature along with the amount of discipline you have to have outside of your allotted practice time, I don't think there's another sport that really compares that I've been around, and maybe gymnastics and things like that, where you really have to focus on your body, but between monitoring weight and staying in condition and finding, all these opportunities, it is definitely different. I just noticed the background on your wall, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. You got the coolest background I think we've had so far. Although Derek did have his own picture behind him, and that made me laugh a lot. Is if that's not on brand for Derek Meinke, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
So going to, we know what you've taken from the sport. One of the things that as a coach I kind of take personally, and that I hope athletes that come through my program do, is what you're going to give back to it afterward. And through this advice, what kind of advice would you give to somebody that's like just starting the sport, whether they're in first grade like you were, or maybe later on? What's like a piece of advice you might give them?
I'd probably tell them, it's you're gonna lose some in the beginning, and that's the only way you're gonna learn. You're not gonna be just a stud right off the bat. You got to work hard, and then big things will come.
And the learning through losses part is difficult. There's no other sport that I'm aware of that as like a young kid, and this is something we got to fix in this country, but that you're 5, 6, 7 years old, and you're out there competing, winning or losing, with all of it on your shoulders. Meanwhile, you got like 6 adults yelling at you at the same time in a crowded gym, and then on top of that, if you got grandma and grandpa and aunt and uncle and everybody wants to watch you, like, if I had my way, I think I would change the way we do this sport in the youth culture. Just because I think you can't expect kids to learn like that. Imagine if you were in math class, right? And during the whole test, you had mom and dad and grandpa, everybody around you. And every time you got a question wrong, they had to console you.
Yeah.
Or every time you got one right, they're all yelling and screaming at you the whole time. Like, we would never do that. But for some reason, our sport thinks we do that. It's tangent. My apologies. And I'm actually going to wrap this question around a different way. Normally, I ask what you would tell yourself as a younger wrestler as you start to take the sport seriously. However, this fits right in with the question that our last interviewer asked. So every kid that's come on, kid, are you 18?
Almost.
All right, well then you're almost an adult man. Then I'm not going to call you a kid anymore. Excuse me. So every interviewee has gotten asked a question from the previous person, and then they in turn get to pose a question to the next person. And you guys don't know who it goes to or who it came from. Well, I'll tell you who it came from. Garrett Pavelko was our last interviewee, and I asked him, what did I ask him? Oh, what his favorite memory of elementary wrestling was, because that's what Colton had asked him. The question he posed was, if you could change one thing from your past in wrestling, what would you have changed?
I'd probably, I did some stuff in the off season, but I'd probably do more. I think I would have benefited a lot from that, and lifting weights too. Do more lifting, so that would probably would have been what I changed.
And that's pretty common, right? It's hard at the time, especially you're a 15, 16-year-old kid, and there's a million things different pulling you different directions. I'd like to go out and work and make money. I'd like to go hang out with my friends. I'd like to go do this, and when it's all done, you're kind of thinking, if I could have just done one more of these, or I know I've had a lot of those moments myself where it's like, man, what if I'd have changed something? I thought that was a pretty good question out of Garrett. You do not have anybody after you because it took us forever to get this lined up, but you get to keep your question in case we do a wrap-up video that may or may not be happening depending on our group chat and the rest of the yahoos in our group. So what are your plans from now? So you're saying Lake City's doing like a football field type graduation thing, which is awesome. What's your plans after that? What are you going to do?
So next year I'll be going to North Dakota State College of Science. It's in Wapaton, North Dakota.
Okay.
And I'm land surveying / civil engineer technology. And I'm also going to get a certification in welding.
Interesting. Okay.
And then
And what do you want to do with that?
with the welding or with
With
the every
with all of it? How
with
does it all
all
fit together?
the welding part, I just kind of like a I can if I take that welding for electives, then I can get a certificate just so I have that in case like a backup plan, you know. So that's just kind of like a backup thing or whatever. And then the surveying, you could there's it's a really what's it high like um there's a lot of jobs out there for land surveying, and they get paid pretty well. It sounds interesting. The school I'm going to actually has like a state of the art facility, like place for like all this new technology. So that's why I chose the school. And they don't have wrestling. They used to have it, and they used to actually be pretty good, I guess. So I
Huh.
I would do wrestling, but at the I mean school comes first. So I considered going to a different school to do wrestling, but it is what it is, I guess.
Well, and uh, you said Wapaton, right?
Wapaton, yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably got a I know they have a high school team over there. They'd
Yeah,
probably let you come slide in, do a little extra coaching.
that's what I was kind of thinking too.
That's cool though. I mean, so do you guys have welding at Lake City, like a class?
Well, yeah, we have like shop classes with welding in there, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was always afraid to take those because I don't trust myself with a torch. But that's why we need kids like you that can do things like that, because those are going to be. I mean, you're never going to stop needing those kind of skills.
Oh,
Whereas, I mean, I hope it don't, but PE might be. Those jobs might be dying before welding does. Um, Interesting though, and gonna be cold up there.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hope you got a extra parka or two.
Yeah.
That's all you guys going up to North Dakota. I mean, Minnesota's cold enough. I don't understand you guys going any further away from the equator, but bless your souls. Just to kind of wrap things up, is there any certain people you want to thank? I'm gonna kind of give you a spot to thank everybody you want to thank, and then I'll kind of wrap it up and we'll be done.
Yeah, I like to thank my parents for just supporting me, win or lose. They're always there for all my tournaments and everything every time they could be. For putting up for me with weight cutting, just kind of been being kind of crabby, you know. I'd like to thank my sisters for going to the tournaments, even though they're bored sitting in the stands. I'd like to thank all my coaches for getting me where I got to, and I'd like to thank you, Cody, for everything you've done, and thanks for this interview too.
No, it's good, man. And again, I hadn't even mentioned really your family yet, but I tell you what, again, another set of people that every time I come by, they didn't recognize me with the long hair. That made me chuckle. When you guys came down to Stewartville for the duel, I walked by and I like said hi to your parents, and they kind of looked at me like, okay. And I was like, oh, Cody. Oh, and you kind of see the light bulb go off. I was like, yeah, how's it going? Oh, it's going good, Cody. But such nice people. Can't believe I haven't met your sisters in all the time we spent together or known of their existence, but I'm glad I do now.
Yeah.
Um, no, but thank Nash. You are a kid that comes in, and I can throw you in any group, and you're gonna make it work. And you were at a hard weight class and ability level, especially in our club, because a little bit on the smaller side. What you ended up 126 this year,
Yep. 26.
and 126 not exactly a typical senior weight. And like you said, you were on a pretty strict diet and descent plan to stay there. But every time you come in, you might be wrestling with 45 pounders that day. You might be wrestling with 13 pounders that day. But you always come in, you always get the best workout out of it. And as a coach, that's all I can ask. And again, when we never know when you're coming in, it might just be the partners we have that day. But it's always fun to watch you walk in, and sometimes it might not always be right at 4 o'clock or whenever we have practice, but you got a smile on your face and, yep, gonna go warm up, then I'll be in. You got it, Nash. We'll see you soon.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it. And we wish you the best of luck as you go freeze up in Wapaton. And whenever you're back, you just come down, you come say hi. Don't be a stranger.
Okay.
All right. Well, thanks again to Nash for his time. I know a busy guy, working, school, all the necessities. Thank everybody else who's watching. This will probably be the end. I'm not sure if we're going to get it lined up to where we can get all of our seniors together for kind of a group Zoom session, but thank you for everybody who's watching, and that's it.
Ain't nobody really than Gorilla. Ain't nobody really than Gorilla. I said, ain't nobody really than Gorilla. Ain't nobody really than Gorilla.